How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So, right now we're going to talk about the rotation. Adding Marcus Stroman. Haven't even really got my take out. I know you guys did a live stream last night to discuss the signing of Stroman. Obviously, pretty controversial, but a pitcher on paper that makes sense for this team. 2 years, $37 million, $18.5 million per season, a vesting option in 2026, and a player option for Stroman if he pitches over 140 innings next year. So, we'll see how it goes. This is definitely feels like a desperation signing, mainly because I don't think the Yankees want to give out long-term deals to Montgomery and Snell, who are 31 years old and want substantial contracts. I think they'd rather go short-term with a guy with a little bit more upside on a cheaper contract, right? Not upside in terms of comparably, but more so just for the price that we got Stroman at. It's a worthwhile risk from a baseball perspective. Not going to talk about him as a human. That's for another day, another discussion. You guys probably know all about that, but end of the day, high ground ball pitcher, limits home runs. I think he fits really well with what we actually need. So we'll see how that goes. But we're going to talk about where he fits in this rotation, really the projected rotation going into 2024. Do we think it's enough? I think that right now, the upside is there for it to be very good. The downside is there for it to be really freaking bad. So that's kind of like the risk-reward Cashman likes to play at some spots. And now we look to the future and see what we can do. But Ryan, before we dive into the good stuff, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. And, looking at where the New York Yankees are at with their rotation now that they have Marcus Stroman, look, Marcus Stroman is objectively an upgrade over what the Yankees had, right? And look, we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations over the next few weeks and next few months about the person of Marcus Stroman. But what we do know is on the field, and we're going to just strictly talk on the field, or at least I'm going to right now, the ground ball rates, they fit exactly what the Yankees are looking for. The sinker, it's a seam-shifted wake sinker. I actually just posted about this. It has the largest deviation between observed and spin-based movement, which means that when he throws the ball and when he generates spin on the ball, the spinning parts on it, batters pick that up and think it's going to go one way, and then it goes a different way, or it doesn't move in the way that they anticipate. And that concept allows them to get a lot of called strikes. It allows them to be deceptive. It allows them to be hard to hit. His sinker has been an elite pitch for him over the last 2 years, and ultimately, the Yankees play well with sinkers. They're a ground ball organization. They've kind of championed the idea of soft contact and stuff like that. Not that they don't like getting swings and misses, but, Stroman does bring that to the table. He has a pretty good breaking ball in his slurve, and that's a sharp, horizontally moving breaking ball that I think the New York Yankees do well with as well. He has a cutter. That's a pitch the Yankees like. That they had the highest usage at the minor league level among any teams by a pretty large margin in terms of cutter usage. So it's a pitch they like to develop. I think that's a pitch that he might lean on more here. His secondaries are pretty good. Slider's pretty good. His tertiary offerings. His gyro slider's good. Four-seam fastball, unique pitch, release from a lower slot, which, yeah, it's because he's a shorter guy. But, honestly, I think that helps him, right? You think of what plays well for four-seam fastballs, it's lower slot releases. So the fact that he comes from that, he doesn't throw from an over-the-top angle. He throws from more of a side angle or more of a three-quarters action. And he's a short guy, means he has one of the lowest release points in baseball. That makes his four-seam fastball better. His splitter is also a pretty good pitch. So overall, there's a vast array of movement profiles. He's an athletic guy. He moves around. He knows his body well. He's an intense competitor. We know all these things about him. He's the type of guy that you love to play with and hate to play against. And that's kind of the vibe that you get from a lot of people who have played with Marcus Stroman, who have played against Marcus Stroman, right? I kind of harken back to a quote from Alex Cora where he was when he was with the Astros as the bench coach, he talked about, or I think it was the third base coach, he talked about how you would still, even when he was with the Astros, they were screaming at Marcus Stroman from the dugout. Then he goes to the Red Sox and they're still screaming at Marcus Stroman from the dugout. People just don't, opponents are just rubbed the wrong way by Marcus Stroman. And, ignoring the off-field stuff for a second here, I'm going to be honest, that's the type of player the Yankees have lacked over the last few years. I feel not that they're soft, because I think soft is such these are athletes. They're doing things I can't do. You know what I mean? I would never dare to call an athlete, you're soft because you're not, yelling at people on the mound. I think that's a little bit much. Not everybody's like that, right? I'm not going to ask people to be different people, a different version of themselves. But Alex, when he, starts chirping at, I don't know, when he starts chirping at, Tristan Casas after striking him out, I'm going to rock with that. And you know what? And I think that's going to bring the clubhouse together, because it's going to be an us versus them mentality versus, not to say that I don't like when guys fraternize, because I understand it's a brotherhood. These players all go through similar things. There's more trading and more player movement in the league as well. So Oftentimes, these guys have played with each other at some capacity, whether that's at the minor league or major league level, or even in events like the World Baseball Classic, right, where we see like fellow countrymen go out and play together. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Gleyber Torres and Luis Arraez, I know we talked about them in our most previous recording, like knew each other because they you know, like they both played. They both share a native country, and like that's a shared experience, that's a shared bond. I talk about like how like it's a big thing for me that Juan Soto, if he extends with the Yankees, could be the first Yankee to be a to have his number retired and be born of Dominican descent. That means something to me. And I'm not even a baseball player, right? I think that the Yankees having more of like a clubhouse brotherhood and more of like a tighter bond in that clubhouse. Look, Stroman could break apart or bring together a clubhouse. The Yankees are opting for the latter half. And look, I'll say this about Brian Cashman. Nobody can say Brian Cashman doesn't admit to his mistakes anymore because he just signed the guy who's publicly like, yeah, he wouldn't start October for us. And also a guy who trashed him multiple times on social media. So if you have the narrative that Brian Cashman doesn't admit mistakes, you've got to throw it out the window now. And end of the day, like, this is going to be a signing that you're going to feel either really good about, really poorly about. I think they got good market value, but there are a lot of reasons why this could go well and a lot of reasons why this could go poorly. Alex, I think the best way to look at this is the games will be the test. Like we'll have to wait and see when the games kick off and when it's the middle of August and the Yankees are slumping, whether Marcus Stroman will break apart or pull together this clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what really cures all? Winning baseball games, good performance. As long as this Yankee team is winning, as long as Stroman is performing, I don't think we have anything to worry about. But, if you follow a trend of last year where the team is losing, injuries happen, things start to get off the rails, then you're going to see some guys start to speak up. And look, I think the end of the day, there's two players who are going to keep Stroman in line. Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge. Those two guys will keep him focused, keep him out of trouble. We know Stroman is, he was a Yankee fan as a kid. He grew up. I think he wants to don the pinstripes, and maybe the fact he always spoke poorly about the Yankees because we never wanted him until now he kind of needed a desperation move. But with that being said, let's talk about this rotation, right? So I think we all know Garrett Cole's number one coming off an AL Cy Young Award season, over 200 innings for 2 consecutive years. The dude's an absolute monster. We love Garrett Cole to the moon and back. Dude, I mean, he's awesome. I could not say more great things about Garrett Cole if I tried, straight up. It would be difficult. Second person, the number 2, Carlos Rodon. This is the key to the kingdom, my friends. If Carlos Rodon bounces back, this rotation is going to be really freaking good. If he struggles, if he flops again, this rotation is going to be quite bad. And I think we're going to have to make some moves at the deadline because he will empower everybody else. He is the linchpin in this lineup, or rather this rotation, because if he struggles, it puts a lot of pressure on Stroman and Clark Schmidt and Nestor Cortez to step up. If he dominates, it takes a little bit of that slack off Stroman, takes a little bit of that pressure off of those other guys, and I think they will have a little bit more confidence in knowing that they, even if we lose a game or two, they have a couple tough starts, they will bounce back because they know their other guys, their counterparts will pick them up, their colleagues will step up and carry some of that weight. But I think, Rodon really holds the keys right now to this unit being something really special. Of course, I have Stroman 3. A lot of people will have Nestor Cortez 3 and whatnot. The reason I have Stroman 3 is because, he did have an injury kind of at the end of the season. We had a hip issue past his medicals seemingly, so I think he's good. Nestor Cortez coming off a left rotator cuff strain is a bit concerning to me. And then Clark Schmidt, we just don't know what he's going to be yet. A little inexperienced, has the stuff. Love the upside, but I have Rodon 2, Stroman 3, and then Nestor Cortez 4 and Clark Schmidt 5. That could change. I hope it does. In fact, I hope Clark Schmidt ends up being 3, and I hope that Nestor Cortez ends up being 4, and I hope that Stroman ends up being 5, but not because Stroman's not performing well, but because those two guys are performing so much better. That's kind of how I view this. What is your lineup at this point? What's your rotation looking like? And how do you think this could fluctuate? Because personally, I think that Schmidt, people are sleeping on him a little bit right now. We saw stretches where he showed really good stuff. If he puts it all together, he gets more consistent, which I imagine he's working diligently this offseason. Schmidt could return a dog, man. The guy could return a BR3 and a good one at that.
Yeah, and I'll say this right now. The New York Yankees starting 5 projects to be one of the 10 best in baseball. In terms of WAR, F4, which is based on FIP, and then if you look at ERA, they're projected in the top 5 in terms of run prevention. And the big thing for me is that they've signed Luke Weaver to kind of push Will Warren out of we need Will Warren to be our 5th starter to all right, if we need Will Warren, we'll call him up, right? I think that's a much healthier and more, that's a more fair way to handle his development instead of like forcing him to be the Yankees fifth starter on opening day or like in March. So I want to talk about him a little bit because I think he's big. He's a very important part of this rotation. He's going to be an important part of this pitching staff because his stuff is freaking gross, right? Like he has an excellent sweeping slider, excellent sinker that gets plenty of heavy arm side run. Slider gets a lot of it's a big loopy slider, a lot of horizontal break to the glove side. Changeup, four seamer. Those pitches have gotten better. Overall, this is a guy who I'm really encouraged by, and this is a guy I think is going to profile really well for what the Yankees develop. A guy like Chase Hampton as well. Chase Hampton, nasty pitcher, excellent four-seam fastball, banger sweeper, great cutter, excellent feel for his curveball, right? Like these are the type of young pitchers that will develop in your organization, but don't have the pressure to immediately start out. They are called upon if needed, and that's kind of the big shift here. Again, I know that Marcus Stroman, he isn't Blake Snell. He is not Blake Snell. He isn't Jordan Montgomery. I understand, but realistically, realistically, Alex, let's be real here. Like the New York Yankees, like what is the gap between Marcus Stroman and Jordan Montgomery in terms of what their ERA is going to be next year? Is it a gap of like half a run? If it's a gap of a home run, like I don't think it's going to be a gap of a whole run. It's probably going to be a gap of like 0.2 or 3 ERA, right? Like I think that this past season, it was like, I think 0.6 in terms of ERA. And that was in Montgomery's best year. So like how dramatically different are Montgomery and Stroman going to pitch next year? And the Yankees made a decision that keeps them financially flexible. Like it's a 2-year deal. They have 2 years of guaranteed money. If Stroman pitches really well in 2025 and has 140 innings pitched, if he has 140 innings pitched, he probably pitched well. So he's probably going to just opt out, right? Like he'll opt out of the vesting option. Sure. That's what's probably going to end up happening. But it's 2 guaranteed years. It's 2, right? Like it's not, and it's $18.5 million. Like I want to make a comparison here to Lucas Giolito, not because I think Lucas Giolito was a bad contract. I actually liked it for the Boston Red Sox. I think he's going to give them reliable innings, which is something they needed. But I was talking myself into Lucas Giolito. And I think we got a better pitcher than Lucas Giolito. So if I'm going to talk myself into, hey, I think I would have paid that for Lucas Giolito, and then go, oh, well, we got, I think, a better pitcher for less money, I'm going to have to say, yeah, I think I really like the Stroman deal. Entering the offseason, the Yankees wanted Yamamoto. That was their guy, but they weren't getting Yamamoto, apparently. Like, that's not a guy they ended up getting. Like, they ended up having to settle for somebody else, and like, we were talking about, hey, do we want to hamstring our future financially with Montgomery or Snell? Like, how does that affect the Soto deal? You sign that pitcher, or you sign either of those 2 pitchers, and the New York Yankees will not be shopping at the top of the pitching market for a while. Now, let's say again, like the New York Yankees, next year rolls around or, and they're in free agency and they're like, hey, we want a big time starter. And they go, all right, we have Garrett Cole, we have Carlos Rodon, we have Marcus Stroman all on their contract. Nestor Cortez is arbitration eligible, so is Clark Schmidt. So technically the Yankees don't have to guarantee their salaries and they're probably movable. The Yankees could say, we want Zach Wheeler in our rotation, and we have a 3-headed beast of Cole and Wheeler. Maybe Rodon bounces back and becomes a 3-headed beast. Hell, maybe Stroman pitches like he did in 2021 or 2022, or a more consistent version of what he was this past year. And you've got one of, if not the best 1 through 4 in baseball. Look at some of the other pitching contracts that have been signed. Jameson Taillon got 4 years, $80 million. Taijuan Walker, a similar contract, right? Like we're talking Taijuan was a 5-year commitment. So we're talking similar AAV, only 2 years. And again, this is a guy who kind of fits what the Yankees are doing really well. You have a lot of young guys in your farm system who could step up. It gives them breathing room to have that opportunity to develop and not be forced into a major league role. Ultimately, like from a baseball perspective, if you're upset about this move, I question what you wanted the Yankees to do in the first place, right? Because again, if they signed Snell or they signed Montgomery, number one, it wasn't going to be to some like 2-year deal. It was going to be to a 6 or 7-year one, and it wasn't going to be some $130 million contract. It would have been some 160, 170, in Snell's case, maybe even close to $200 million contract, and that does hamper your ability to sign Juan Soto. Like, how do you feasibly give Juan Soto that mega offer? Now, the Yankees can say, well, we don't have another massive commitment on top of Aaron Judge. Like, when they lose the $33 million of Juan, or $31 million in arbitration of Juan Soto, that all goes towards an extension or a free agent deal. You can give him $45 million for the next 12 years, and it's going to work for them.
Absolutely. I mean, look, this rotation, it has the possibility, has the potential to be pretty solid. I mean, they rank top 5 in projected ERA or something this upcoming season. So honestly, didn't see that coming. But I'll say this right now, I still think the Yankees need more support. And even if it's not a starting pitcher, I think it should be a bullpen arm. And the bullpen arm that I really like is Jordan Hicks. I really like Jordan Hicks. I know a lot of people do too. It's not much of a hot take. It's pretty freezing cold, actually. Jordan Hicks averages over 100 miles an hour on his fastball, has a sick fastball slider combo coming off a really strong season. And adding him to your bullpen helps to stifle some of those bad starts from pitchers. But, he's not going to be a long inning relief guy. He's going to be a guy that you bring in high leverage situations like Ian Hamilton, Clay Holmes, Jordan Hicks, Jonathan Loai, Scott Efron. Like, you got some freaking sick talent there to work with out of your bullpen. Yankees might have a top 5 bullpen in baseball. They do regularly. Adding a player like that to the mix with Matt Blake coaching him up, I mean, say less. That could be sick. That could be really, really special. So if the Yankees don't go in the move of a starting pitcher, I'd like for them to go after, a Stevenson. You've mentioned him in the past. I don't think Hader's very realistic, but I would love a Jordan Hicks. He makes a lot of sense for our style and his pitch mix. So, keep an eye on him. We'll keep you guys updated. There is interest there. The Yankees did check in about Jordan Hicks a couple days ago, I think, according to John Morosi. So, we'll see how things develop here, but always happy to hear your thoughts below on this starting rotation, how you think it's going to kind of unfold come spring training, what you think it's going to look like, and if you do have faith in it to be as good as some people think it can be this upcoming season. So always happy to hear those thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe. As always, my friends, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.